What's up, Prop Nation? It's your boy John here today. We are back with Week 3, Thursday Night Football. This is the New England Patriots going to see the New York Jets, their division rival, and should be a interesting game, I want to say. This is the Jets are favored -6.5, and the over-under is currently sitting at 39.5, so pretty low total. This apparently is the biggest spread differential that the Jets have had in their favor in something like apparently like nearly 20 years. So this is going to be a crazy, interesting game. Crazy, interesting game. I won't say it's going to be a shootout or anything like that because I don't think it will be. And interestingly, the last time the spread was that much in favor of the Jets, I think the Patriots ended up winning that game 20-19 in the end, or maybe it was the Jets won it 20-19, something like that, 20-something years ago. So we'll see what we get out of this game for Thursday Night Football. Glad that you're here watching with us on YouTube. If you are, please like and subscribe. And follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter as well. And leave a review on Apple and Spotify. Really helps us out. And did you know that 60% of people watching this, you are not subscribed? Only 40% are subscribed. So please, it is a really free, easy way to help us grow the show. We had a really good Sunday slate as well, followed up with some more really good picks. Sully was doing really well on his picks as well, which was good to see. Last Thursday night, Dolphins and Bills. We got dismantled by the Tua injury. We were all in on the Dolphins and didn't work out. Achane was a great call though, so it was good to see that. But we've got a couple of interesting picks for this game. So without further ado, let's get into Patriots at Jets from MetLife Stadium. So we'll start with the visitors. We'll start with the Patriots, who have had a pretty conservative season to start. They have not been utilizing the ball very much through Jacoby Brissett, which makes sense. They're currently ranked 28th in neutral pass rate, so they are running the ball a ton. Right now, Ramondre Stevenson is absolutely dominating on the ground, dominating workload. He's the running back 2 in usage over the first 2 weeks. So I'm expecting that to continue. I see no reason to go off it. Jets have been very good against tight end as well, but I'm still expecting Hunter Henry to have a relatively big game here. He's also tight end 2 in usage as well. So they've been funneling the ball through Hunter Henry a ton. I think I saw something like Jacoby Brissett last week against the Seahawks had 139 passing yards or 149 passing yards, and Hunter Henry had 109 receiving yards. He had 109 of 139, 49 receiving yards. That is insane usage. So we'll see if that continues as well. KJ Osborne, he's the receiver 1 so far for the New England Patriots, and he currently ranks 63rd among wide receivers in usage. So that should give you a bit of context about which way we're going to plan this one ahead. Patriots defense has been giving it up on to pass-catching running backs. So Zach Charbonnet was able to get over the top of them last week against Seattle. And we had Zach Moss, who was able to get a couple of catches as well. He had 2 catches, and he was able to get his receiving yards. But I will say they haven't been huge. Zach Moss, he was slated at 10.5 receiving yards, and Zach Charbonnet was to get 15.5. So they both got those. Scrimmage yards, Charbonnet did not make, but he was not very useful on the ground, and Moss had 45 rushing yards. So I'm going to look to Breece Hall in this spot for receiving, even though they do also use him a ton in the rush game. Interestingly, the wide receiver 1 on teams have caught their deep bombs. So we did see DK Metcalf caught a huge, it was like 40, 50-yard touchdown last week, or maybe it was 60. So he went over his 22.5 longest reception. And then similarly, week 1, Jamar Chase did have a 24.5-yard reception over, and his line was 75.5, and he did not go over that. But he did have at least one really big catch. So that could be an interesting way to play it with Garrett Wilson as well. Geno was all over them. Geno played one of the best games of his career against the Patriots, which was very unexpected. It was interesting to see what happened, though, with Ken Walker, who was out for the game. So they really, they were hyper targeting Jackson Smith and Jigba as well. He had something like finished with 16 targets, I think, in the end. DK Metcalf was something similar. They both had well over 100 receiving yards. So that was just a good game for Seattle. Cincy couldn't get anything going against them, though. So we'll be interesting to see what happens here. It'll be interesting to see how the Jets play this. I think that they've sort of struggled through their first 2 games as well. So I kind of expect that to continue as well. Let's take a look at the New York Jets now. Couple of interesting tidbits from last week against the Titans. So Braylon Allen, 2 touchdowns in the end. Also had the 9 carries as well, which was a bit unexpected. It's not like the Jets are out to a huge lead or whatever. I will say they were kind of using him in a bit of like a gadgety way. At some points, Breece Hall was kind of just like eye candy for the defenders. And then Braylon Allen would just rip off these like huge fluke plays to get those touchdowns. But we'll say it was very, very impressive. Wouldn't mind actually betting against him though this week, because we'll see what his line is. Patriots have also been giving it up, as I mentioned, in the pass catching game, so we're going to be looking to Breece Hall in this spot. I think this is a big Breece Hall game. I think this is a big game on the ground. I actually really like the Patriots to cover the 6.5 as well. I don't see the Jets getting out to that big of a lead, even though they did against the Titans last week. Sully was right. Sully bet them up from 3.5 up to 7, and he was correct. He got that. So I think that kind of game script, like that was due to Will Levis. I don't think that Jacoby Brissett is going to do the same kind of reckless abandonment that we've seen from Will Levis. So with that said, Jets have given it up on the ground. Jordan Mason, week 1, had a fantastic game in San Francisco. And then Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's been very good. Watch out for him on the Sunday slate. I'm going to talk about him in the Sunday slate as well. Tony Pollard. So I expect Ramondre to have a really, really big game here. I also expect his line to be very big, so we'll see what that comes to as well. And then the Jets have been pretty good against tight ends, so this is going to be interesting. Kittle had 40 receiving yards against them and 5 receptions, so it was a good game. And then Chigga he did not get his 27.5, but he did have 3 catches, so we'll see how this one plays out. Receivers have been a bit hit or miss. We're going to be looking to the run in this one if we're going to attack the Jets in any way. But let's jump into the quarterbacks. All right, so we'll start with Jacoby Brissett. And as you can see, a real change from last week where he needed 204 passing yards. He couldn't quite get there. He was in the hundreds. He's now down to 165.5 passing yards is his total that he needs for this game. Down to 27.5 pass attempts and 17.5 pass completions. So even though he's dropped 40 yards over the last week, his attempts and completions have only gone down 1, and his rushing yards have only come down a tiny little bit as well. Longest pass as well is down from 34 to 29 as well. So I'm actually kind of interested to have a look at this pass attempts, 27.5. We could look at taking the under for that one. Would be kind of interesting, I feel. As far as the 165 goes, I'm probably going to stay away from that. It's a pretty small number. We know the Jets defense, and they're going to be at home. They're very good, but I'm just not sure that I want to really play that too much. But that 27.5 pass attempts looks interesting. We'll take a look at Aaron Rodgers as well. He had a line of 222 passing yards last week, and he's down to 210 for this game as well. He has not gone over his passing yards yet either. He also hasn't gone over his pass attempts or his pass completions or a longest pass as well. So he's under for all of those. But I think he's played 2 really fantastic defenses in the 49ers. And I think Tennessee's a very good defense as well. And he was on the road there. So heavy utilization with Breece Hall. But the Patriots, I think their defense is pretty good as well. I know that Seattle carved them up last week and Geno had a really great game, but I sort of expect that to stay the same. What you'll notice here, though, his pass attempts, Aaron Rodgers' pass attempts, have gone from 34.5 down to 30.5. So that is a significant drop, unlike Jacoby Brissett. And his pass completions is down to 20.5. Again, he hasn't gone over any of these. Will he get over 200 passing yards? This is an interesting question. Interestingly, his longest pass has gone up a yard as well. I'll probably look to not bet anything on Aaron Rodgers this week, even though he's been consistently going under for now. I want to see how this plays out. Their first home game in a long time at MetLife, and we know what happened last time Aaron Rodgers played at MetLife, so this should be interesting. We'll take a look at the running backs. We'll start with Ramondre Stevenson. Well, we talked about him earlier. He's the number 2 overall running back in usage through the first 2 weeks of the season. and his line is sitting at 65.5 this week. That has not increased that much. Week 1, he was 50 yards. Last week against Seattle, he was up to 61.5 he needed, and now he's up to 65. So it's only an increase of 4 yards, and his rush attempts have gone up from 13.5 up to 15.5. So 65.5, I'm really into that number. His receiving yards have been woeful. He has not gone over 11.5 at all, even though in the first game against Cincinnati, he had at least 3 catches there, had 2 catches last week in Seattle. He does need to get up to 83.5 all-purpose yards. So that's interesting. Longest rush, which was 12.5, he's gone over that both weeks as well. He's been looking very efficient, as was Antonio Gibson last week. 17.5 rushing yards is what he needed. He got it. And he has not been used in the pass-catching game at all as well. So if I'm going to look anyway for those guys, I'm probably going to look at Rhamondre for this one. I'm also going to look at Breece Hall as well. We'll talk about the Jets now. I'm into the 63.5 rushing yards is what Breece Hall needs. I don't mind it, but here's the way I really want to play this. His receiving yards are up to 31.5 is what you can get on BetMGM. That's up from 26.5 the previous 2 weeks. And he's gone up from 3.5 receptions line up to 4.5. Meanwhile, his all-purpose scrimmage yards have gone from 93 up to 97. So they've only increased 5 yards despite everything else increasing there. So I'm actually into the scrimmage yards. I normally stay away from scrimmage, usually when it comes to bell cow running backs. When you get pass-catching running backs, though, this is a really good area to bet this, especially when the increase has not been that much. So 97.5 passing yards, scrimmage yards there. I'm into that. The other one I'm kind of into, so Braylon Allen had a really weird game it was his first game last week, and he really dominated. I kind of don't expect that to be the same this week. He's got a rush line of 21.5 rushing yards and a receiving line of 9.5, and he went over both of those last week. But I almost wouldn't mind betting. He's also got a scrimmage line of 33.5. I wouldn't mind betting under 33.5 scrimmage yards for Braylon Allen in this one. I think it's going to be a really big Breece Hall game. Okay, we don't need to spend too much time on the New England Patriots receivers. They are a dumpster fire. They're a mess. Triquan Thornton was really useful in week 1 against Cincinnati. Then he didn't play in week 2. KJ Osborne was good in week 1, wasn't useful in week 2. In fact, none of the receivers were good in week 2 against Seattle, as we mentioned. There was only a total of 40 receiving yards to go around all of them, and none of them got their prop lines. Jalen Polk has come all the way down. He did have his first touchdown last week, which was cool to see. But he's all the way down to 17.5 receiving yards at his line. I almost don't mind that. He had 2 catches last week, and his line is 1.5 this week. So 2 catches for Jalen Polk is doable. We saw it last week, so I don't mind that, but 17.5 is also interesting as well. Hunter Henry, he's up to 33.5 and 3.5 receptions. I know he had a huge game last week, and he's tight end 2 in usage through the first 2 weeks, but I'm not going to stay in the flames with Hunter Henry. Looking at the Jets receivers as well, Garrett Wilson's come down to 64.5. He has not made his lines yet this year of 68.5 receiving yards and 6.5 receptions. He's not made that either. Line is still sitting at 6.5 receptions, and I do expect this to be a big Garrett Wilson game, but 7 catches is a lot, especially when we're also looking at like Alan Lazard, who had a big game against San Francisco. He really dropped off last week. Mike Williams, we've not seen too much of him. Tyler Conklin, I'm surprised he's not been involved that much as well. We did see Malachi Corley caught a catch last week. So, yeah, this is a bit tricky. We'd probably look to some of the unders here of anything. I think if I'm going to look at unders, I might look at Garrett Wilson. See, I don't want to bet under 6.5 because this could be a huge Garrett Wilson game, even though he's going to have someone like Christian Gonzalez or Duggan on him. He might even be double covered. That's why I kind of think it's going to be a really big Breece Hall game. So, look, we might throw it out there under 6.5 receptions. It's a tough one. That's a really tough one. Okay, so let's take a look at the ticket then. I'm not sure that we're going to make it to 5 picks in this one. I really don't want to force a pick that unnecessarily needs to be there. I might do Jacoby Brissett under 27.5 pass attempts. I think that could be a good one since he hasn't really gotten close to that yet. I'm not looking at anything Aaron Rodgers' way. Here's where my vote of confidence is going. It's in these running backs. I want to do Ramondre Stevenson over 65.5 rushing yards. I like that. I like Breece Hall over 97.5 scrimmage yards. I like Braylon Allen under 21.5 rushing yards. Or rather, we might even go under 33.5 scrimmage yards. And if we just needed one more to make the 5, let's go with Garrett Wilson under 6.5 receptions. I don't love it. If you can just go with 4, do that. If you want to tack on the 5th one, Garrett Wilson under 6.5 receptions, I think is the way you play this. That's going to do it for another edition of the Thursday Night Football. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you're still watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We're having a pretty good season as well. We're off to a really, really good start, and we're going to be back with a Sunday slate for you as well with all our favorite picks, which is going really well. I'll even be back with the footy as well. Prelim finals are here. Cats are in it. There's plenty of sports on this week. There's plenty of games to watch. Hope you enjoy them. Until next week, goodbye. Don't let the game play you. Stay in control. Gamble responsibly. In Australia, phone 1-800-858-858 for free and confidential support. In Canada, learn about safer play at Know the Risks from the Responsible Gambling Council at knowtherisks.ca. In America, must be 21 or older and present in Arizona. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXTSTEP or text NEXTSTEP to 53342. Colorado, gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. Connecticut, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Illinois, Maryland, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Indiana, gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Kansas, gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com. Louisiana, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Play it smart from the start or call 1-800-GAM-1234. In Michigan, gambling problem? Call 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help. In New York, for help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Tennessee gambling problem? Call Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789. Wyoming gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. Prop Nation betting show is for entertainment purposes only and should in no way be considered financial advice.